Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be talking about organ transplantation.
Okay.
It's a topic that's, I don't know, always kind of fascinated me. And we've got a lot of sources here,
Yeah.
articles, research, all shedding light on this whole world of donors and recipients and the medical teams that bring them together.
Right.
And it's I don't know, I was looking through some of the stuff and I found it so interesting that living organ donors don't even have to be related to the recipient at all,
Oh.
which I thought was pretty
It
amazing.
really speaks to the generosity of the donors.
Yeah.
I think both living and deceased donors
Yeah.
make just these incredible acts of selflessness
It is
that
amazing.
lay the foundation for these life-altering journeys for so many people.
Yeah, so let's talk about the donors for a minute.
Okay.
Going through something like that, whether you're living or deceased, it must come with its own set of complexities.
Absolutely.
Yep.
For living donors, the screening process is so incredibly thorough.
I would imagine.
It's not just about matching blood types. It's about ensuring that the donor is healthy enough for the procedure.
Right.
And they run extensive tests to minimize any risks to both the donor and the recipient.
Wow.
It's a massive commitment,
Yeah.
and I find it honestly inspiring.
It's kind of like embarking on their own mini transplant journey in a way.
Yeah.
I imagine there are a lot of like emotional and logistical hurdles for living donors to kind of overcome.
There are. The sources mention the impact that it can have on their health,
Right.
on their lifestyle, their mental well-being. There's recovery time to consider potential complications.
Hmm.
And then there's this emotional weight of knowing that a part of you is now living within someone else.
Wow. That's something to consider. And then you've got deceased donors too that often, are making this decision in the midst of a tragedy.
Yeah, and their impact is just immeasurable. Consent is still, critically important.
Of course.
It involves the donor's family
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that their wishes are respected.
Right.
It's a delicate situation,
Yeah.
but one that brings hope to so many people who desperately need a second chance.
Right. It's a powerful way to honor the legacy of the donor. To kind of acknowledge the profound impact of their gift.
Hmm.
Now, thinking about everything that the donor goes through, it makes me wonder, what's the other side of this? What does the recipient experience?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
It's not just about the surgery itself. It's about this lifetime of adjustments that recipients have to make both physically and emotionally.
I imagine.
Uh,
Physically, recovering from surgery and the constant monitoring and the whole immunosuppressant regimen to prevent rejection. What are immunosuppressants and what are some of the things that they need to be aware of?
Right. So immunosuppressants are medications that essentially prevent your immune system from attacking the new organ.
Oh, okay.
But they also suppress your immune system overall, which leaves you more susceptible to infections and other illnesses.
So it's like a delicate balance there.
Yeah, it requires vigilance, frequent checkups,
Mm.
a close relationship with your transplant team to manage those risks.
Right. Wow. So it really is a whole new way of living. And what about the emotional adjustments? That must be as challenging as the physical.
Absolutely. Recipients often experience this whole wave of emotions, intense gratitude,
Hmm.
but also this sense of responsibility to honor the gift that they've received. It's not uncommon for recipients to experience survivors' guilt, wondering why they were chosen to receive this life-saving gift. There's a passage in one of our sources that really resonated with me.
All right.
It talks about how recipients can grapple with this new sense of identity now that their bodies contain a part of someone else.
That's interesting.
It raises profound questions about what constitutes the self.
So you're saying that receiving an organ isn't just a physical change,
Right.
but it actually impacts how somebody sees themselves as a person.
Absolutely. Imagine carrying a part of someone else inside you.
Yeah.
It can lead to questions like, whose body is this? Am I still me? Some recipients even feel this sense of responsibility to live a life worthy of the gift they've received.
Wow. That's incredible. It really highlights the crucial role of the healthcare team.
Yes.
They're not just there for the surgery, they're there for the long haul,
Yes,
helping people navigate every aspect of this journey.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The healthcare team acts as this crucial bridge, ensuring a smooth transition and ongoing care for the recipient.
Okay, so let's talk about this healthcare team.
Right.
Who are the key players here and what makes their role so unique in this whole process?
Well, you have the transplant surgeons, of course.
Right.
But beyond that, there's this whole network of specialists, nurses, coordinators, social workers, pharmacists, you name it. They all play a vital role in the recipient's well-being, from that initial evaluation all the way through to long-term follow-up care.
So it truly is a team effort, and their connection with the recipient extends far beyond the operating room.
Precisely. They manage everything from organ matching and pre-transplant education
Mm-hmm.
to managing those immunosuppressants we discussed,
Right.
addressing any complications and providing that crucial emotional support.
Right.
They help recipients navigate the complex psychological and social challenges that come with transplantation. It's this long-term partnership that requires a lot of trust and open communication.
Yeah, it's really incredible how interconnected everything is. You have this incredible act of generosity from the donor, this monumental shift in the recipient's life, and this dedicated team of professionals guiding them through it all.
It really highlights the multifaceted nature of transplantation
Yeah.
and how deeply human it is at its core.
And speaking of the human element, it
Mhm.
brings us to another really crucial aspect, ethics.
Yes.
With such high stakes and complex emotions involved, ethical considerations really need to be at the forefront of every decision.
You're absolutely right. We can't talk about transplantation without discussing the ethical framework that guides this entire process.
So let's dive into that. What are some of the key ethical principles at play here?
Well, some of the most important ones are autonomy-informed consent and equitable access to organs.
Okay.
Autonomy means respecting the individual's right to make their own decisions about their health care.
Right.
Informed consent means ensuring that everyone involved, both donors and recipients,
Well,
fully understand the risks and benefits of the procedure before making any decisions.
of course.
And then equitable access means ensuring that organs are allocated fairly based on medical need
Hmm.
and not things like wealth or social status. This is where things can get really complex,
I can imagine.
especially when you consider the limited number of available organs and the long waiting lists.
Right. It's about creating a system that's fair and just for everyone involved.
Right.
And these ethical considerations apply to every stage of the process, right?
Absolutely.
From donor consent to recipient selection to post-transplant care.
Our source material specifically mentions the importance of donor consent, both for living and deceased donors.
Mm.
It emphasizes the need to respect the wishes of the donor and their families, and to ensure that that consent is given freely and with a full understanding of what's involved.
So as we wrap up part one of our deep dive into organ transplantation, it's clear that this isn't just a medical procedure. It's a profound experience with far-reaching ethical, emotional, and even philosophical implications. We've explored the roles of the donor and the recipient and the incredible team that brings them together.
It's a story of human connection, resilience, and the pursuit of second chances.
And we'll be back in part two to delve even deeper into the long-term impact of transplantation and explore how these connections we've talked about can shape the lives of both donors and recipients for years to come.
Before we move on, I want to kind of circle back to something we were discussing in the last part.
Okay.
That critical role of the healthcare team in
Mhm.
supporting recipients
Mm-hmm.
through their transplant journey.
Right.
It's a connection that goes far beyond the surgery itself.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lifelong partnership in many ways.
Yeah.
The transplant team isn't just there for the medical side of things. They provide emotional support and guidance as the recipient navigates all the complexities of life after a transplant.
Yeah.
And it's such a critical part of the process.
One thing that really jumped out at me from our research
Okay.
was how maintaining those strong connections with recipients over time can actually improve their overall outcomes.
It makes sense when you think about it. I mean, feeling supported and connected can make a huge difference
Right.
in someone's recovery and long-term well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like building a sense of community and trust, right?
Yeah.
Transplantation can be a very isolating experience. So having that consistent support from the healthcare team can be invaluable.
It's about fostering resilience, too. Transplantation is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
There will be challenges and setbacks and moments of uncertainty. But having that strong support system can help recipients navigate those hurdles and stay focused on their long-term health goals.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the psychological and emotional impact of transplantation.
Oh, right.
That's a huge part of the journey, too.
Yeah, you're right. We touched on this earlier, but I think it's worth diving a little deeper. I mean, recipients often grapple with this whirlwind of emotions: gratitude, fear, anxiety, even guilt.
It's a lot to process.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
And this is where the ongoing support of the healthcare team is so crucial.
Right.
They can provide counseling, connect recipients with support groups, or simply offer a listening ear. It's about acknowledging that mental and emotional well-being are just as important as physical health, especially in the context of transplantation.
It really sounds like maintaining these connections with the transplant team is really key to long-term success after a transplant. It's about empowering recipients, fostering resilience, and providing holistic support that addresses both the physical and emotional aspects of their journey.
Precisely, and I think that's one of the most inspiring takeaways from our deep dive today. It highlights the power of human connection in healthcare. The best outcomes happen when patients feel genuinely supported, empowered, and cared for.
That is a powerful message. And it speaks volumes about the dedication of transplant teams all over the world. I mean, they're not just saving lives, they're changing lives and creating ripples of hope and healing that extend far beyond the operating room.
And those ripples extend to the donor families as well.
That's right.
While we've been focusing on the recipient's journey, it's important to acknowledge the profound gift that donors and their families have given.
You're absolutely right. Their selflessness is at the heart of this whole process.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that knowing their loved one's organs have given someone else a second chance at life must be a source of immense comfort and meaning, especially during a time of loss.
Yeah, our sources don't go into a lot of detail about the donor family experience, but it's something that deserves our attention and respect.
Right.
Their decision has a ripple effect that touches so many lives.
It reminds us that organ transplantation is about so much more than medical procedures and technical expertise. It's about human connection, compassion, and the potential for healing and hope even in the face of loss.
It's about recognizing the profound interconnectedness of everyone involved. The donors, the recipients, their families, and the medical teams, they're all part of this intricate web of life and loss, of giving and receiving, of second chances and new beginnings.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It reminds us that even in the most complex areas of medicine, the human element remains at the very heart of it all.
It's that human element that drives us to keep learning, to keep innovating, and to keep striving for better outcomes for both donors and recipients. Because ultimately, it's about honoring the gift of life and ensuring that it's used to its fullest potential.
Well, we've covered so much ground today, from the incredible act of donation to the lifelong journey of the recipient. It's been eye-opening to explore the complexities of this life-changing process. And I think we're ready to wrap up our deep dive with some final thoughts and reflections on everything we've learned. Well, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into this world of organ transplantation. And it's been quite a journey, exploring, the profound generosity of donors, the life-altering experience of recipients, and the just vital role of those incredible healthcare teams.
Yeah, it's remarkable how interconnected everything is in this process.
Mhm.
Each piece plays such a crucial role in making these second chances possible.
Yeah, one of the most powerful things that's emerged for me is this idea of connection.
Mm.
It's like the thread that weaves through every aspect of transplantation.
Mhm.
We see it in the bond between the donor and the recipient, the
Right.
relationship between the recipient and the healthcare team, and really the connection between everyone involved in this complex and deeply human process.
Absolutely, these connections make all the difference. They provide that foundation of support,
Mhm.
they foster resilience, and they create this sense of hope and shared humanity that goes beyond the medical aspects of transplantation.
And it's not just about the connections themselves, right? It's about nurturing those connections over time, recognizing that transplantation is a lifelong journey, and that the support doesn't just stop when the patient leaves the hospital.
Exactly. Building long-term relationships, fostering open communication, creating a true sense of community.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the real magic happens. It's about recognizing that the recipient isn't alone in this.
And our sources really emphasized how crucial that ongoing support is for both the recipient's physical and mental well-being,
Yes.
empowering them to take ownership of their health, giving them the confidence to manage their medications and lifestyle changes,
Right.
and ensuring that they always have a team of experts they can rely on.
And we can't forget that every individual's journey is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to post-transplant care.
Of course.
It's about tailoring the support to meet each recipient's specific needs, both physically and emotionally.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive here, I'd love to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question. Considering everything we've discussed about the profound nature of organ transplantation and the importance of these enduring connections, how can we as a society do a better job of supporting both donors and recipients throughout their journeys?
That's a wonderful question, and one that deserves careful consideration. For me, it starts with raising awareness
Yeah,
and educating the public about the importance of organ donation.
right.
We need to dispel the myths and misconceptions that surround it.
I agree with that. And providing more resources and support services for both donors and recipients is essential.
Yes,
We need to recognize that this is not just a medical event, it's a life-changing experience that requires ongoing care and attention.
absolutely. And we have to foster a culture of empathy and understanding, recognizing the complex emotions and challenges that both donors and recipients face,
Right.
and creating spaces where they feel heard, supported, and empowered.
Well said. At the end of the day, organ transplantation really showcases the very best of humanity, our ingenuity, our compassion, and our enduring hope. It's been an incredibly enlightening deep dive, and I hope you, our listeners, will continue to explore this topic and consider how you can make a difference in the lives of those touched by transplantation. Thanks for joining us.